everyone. I am going to discuss the first problem on the worksheet that you did on week 3. I noticed that a lot of you got this wrong, and so I want to make sure everyone understands this. If you recall, we had some data involving the number of body piercings among college students, and we were given the data in a frequency table. And this is the table right here. And so we had values from 0 up to 8. And in the right column are the frequencies. So what this table is telling us is that 45 students of the surveyed had 0 piercings. 7 students had 1 piercing. 15 students had 2, and so forth. And the first question that everyone seemed to be fine with, it's a skewed right distribution because we have lots of observations on the low end and a few on the upper end, so that's going to create a skewed right distribution. Where students went astray would be calculating the mean or the median. So what a lot of you did for the median is you just said, well, there's 8 values or 9, and so the median is going to be on the 5th observation. So you went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and gave the median as 4. That's incorrect because you didn't take into account that 45 students actually had 0 for their observation or for their number of piercings. 7 students had 1. We never took into consideration the frequency. And to make that a little more clear, I down here drew what the data would look like if I just gave you the raw data, not summarized in a frequency table. So I had zeros 45 times. So I had 45 zeros there, 1s there, 2s, and then we didn't have any at 5. We didn't have any observations at 7. And so this is what the data would look like before it was made into a frequency table. And so now you can see really clearly that the median isn't going to be 4. 4 is all the way over here. And so I think if you were given this right here instead of the frequency table, you could clearly see that the median is going to be around 0. And so you just have to remember that the frequencies come into play when you're calculating both the mean and the median. And so the first thing we really should do is count up the number of observations. So we have 45 plus 7 plus ... all the way down to 1. If you count up the number of frequencies, I believe it was 74. And so how do we find the median? Well, we want to split the data up into 2 equal halves. That means we would have the first 37 observations in the first half of the data and the second 37 in the second half of the data. And so I could come down to my table here and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 37 and 38. That's going to be my median, the average of those 2 observations. So it's the average of 0, 0. But I don't necessarily want to write it out like this every time. I could just go to my frequency table. I know the median observation is going to be observation number, the average of 37 and 38. And so I just need to figure out where that lies in this frequency table. So I come over here. Well, I know the first 45 observations are going to be 0. And so that 37th and 38th observation is going to be right here. And so the median, the answer to B, is going to be 0. So that's how you deal with a frequency table or a histogram for that matter. You have to remember that you have to take the frequencies into account. And you can easily see that when you have the data like this. And just remember that the frequency table is just a summarized, not a summarized, but a different way to illustrate the data. Okay, well, and the same idea applies for the mean. A lot of you, I don't exactly know how you got this, but a lot of you had 32 for your average. And first, what you want to do is just make sure that your answer makes sense. Now, we only had observations 0 through 8. We have no one in the data in the survey that had more than 8 piercings. So having an average of 32 piercings sounds unrealistic, and if you look at the data, we didn't have any observations over 8. And so always make sure your answer makes sense. But if you remember how to calculate the mean, we add up all the values. So we would take 0 plus 0 all the way up to the last value, which was 8. And that's looking at this right here, 0 plus 0 all the way up to 8. And I could sum those up and then divide by 74. And I think the answer is 0.92, something like that. But again, I don't want to, you want to know how to do it given the frequency table. So you add up 0 45 times. And so how you would do it, I'll go ahead and just write it up here. X bar is going to be equal to 0 times 48. Of course, that's 0. Plus 1 times 7. Plus 2 times 15. Oops. And I keep going until I get to 8 times 1. Okay. And then I divide all that by 74, and I get, I think it was 0.92. You'll have to check my work, but I believe it was 0.92. And so I've summed up all the values by taking 0 times, should be a 5, not an 8. So 0 times 45 plus 1 times 7, that's a way of summing up all these numbers here. For both the mean and the median, you need to take into consideration the frequencies as well. Okay, so hopefully the next time you'll see that, you'll do a little better on that problem.